What happens when three of the biggest names on YouTube decide to sell lunch kits to kids? Could a project backed by millions of fans actually go spectacularly wrong? And how did DanTDM, often criticized for being too cautious, end up calling the disaster before it even began? Stick around, because the story of Lunchly isn't just about a failed product. It's about hype-driven mistakes, and the shocking truths these influencers didn't want you to see. From moldy cheese and misleading health claims to PR non-apologies and corporate chaos, this saga has it all. You'll see how the internet roasted some of the biggest stars in the industry and why DanTDM's warnings were completely justified from day one. Don't blink, or you'll miss the moments that made this launch unforgettable. Remember when everyone criticized DanTDM for being cautious and vocal about Lunchly? Well, about a year later, it turns out he was the only one who truly saw what was coming. While others were caught up in the excitement, Dan predicted the company's struggles almost from the start. Now, with issues like spoiled cheese, disappointing sales, and a product that has essentially vanished from shelves, it's clear that Dan's warnings were spot on. If you missed it, back in September 2024, three of YouTube's biggest names, MrBeast, Logan Paul, and KSI, teamed up to launch Lunchly, a lunch kit aimed at children. Their idea? Take processed food and market it as a healthier alternative to Lunchables. They presented it as revolutionary, comparing ingredients as though they were solving a major public health crisis, touting things like "our pizza uses real cheese" and "Prime has more electrolytes." The problem? Their audience wasn't marathon runners. It was 8-year-olds in classrooms. Despite this mismatch, the trio leaned on their massive combined following of over 200 million people, hoping hype would outweigh practicality. That's when DanTDM decided to speak up. He took to Twitter and shared what might have been the most important post of 2024. Instead of just criticizing the product, he highlighted a broader pattern in influencer marketing, cutting through the PR spin and pointing out the misleading claims in a way that many were thinking but hesitant to say. The reality was clear. Lunchly wasn't created to genuinely help kids. It was designed to capitalize on a young, impressionable audience. You might expect that three experienced content creators would respond maturely to legitimate criticism, but that wasn't the case. KSI was the first to react, tweeting Dan with a picture of Dan's old toy line and commenting, "Looks like crap to me. How does this benefit your fans?" The comparison made little sense, as Dan's toys were Minecraft-themed merchandise closely tied to his content, whereas Lunchly was essentially three influencers attaching their names to a lunch kit. Twitter users didn't hesitate to call out the inconsistency fans pointed out that Dan's toys had been part of a sponsored deal years ago, meaning he didn't retain long-term ownership or profit from them, while KSI actively sells his own toys, energy drinks, and now this lunch kit. The hypocrisy was glaring. Dan chose not to respond directly. He didn't need to. The online community quickly highlighted the contradictions on his behalf. Then Logan Paul entered the fray, defending the venture by claiming that they had spent years building their brands and were now expanding into business. He argued that people didn't protest when Lunchables allegedly had issues, but suddenly everyone was upset about their improved version. Many were quick to point out the irony. Logan himself had previously launched Crypto Zoo, a project that led to significant losses for participants, and his Prime drink had faced legal scrutiny over misrepresented ingredients and caffeine content. Then came the moment that really highlighted DanTDM's foresight. Logan's response to criticism, essentially saying, "Then don't eat it," was unintentionally ironic. After all, that's exactly what ended up happening. People simply weren't eating Lunchly, which is a big part of why the product failed. The real confirmation came when medical professionals started weighing in doctors, like Dr. Mike and Dr. Brian broke down the nutrition labels in detail, and the results were harsh.
If a parent came into my doctor's office, I would not recommend that their child drink this for lunch.
The more electrolytes claim, for example, turned out to be largely just rebranded sodium. For the average school child, extra electrolytes aren't necessary unless they're training for the Olympics between math and English class.
It's clear Lunchly, just like Lunchables, misses the mark too many times to be considered meaningfully healthier, at least in my opinion.
Even more concerning was the calorie count. Lunchly contained far fewer calories than recommended by the USDA for a balanced kid's lunch. The end result? Either children were under-eating, or they were consuming multiple packs and taking in excessive sodium. Either way, the promised health benefits weren't there, proving that Dan's early skepticism had been completely justified. But the saga didn't end there. Remember how they had boasted about using real cheese instead of the processed kind in Lunchables? That claim quickly backfired. Within weeks of the launch, parents began discovering mold, full, fuzzy green colonies that looked like something out of a science fiction show. Videos appeared online showing freshly packed lunch kits, properly refrigerated, and nowhere near their expiration date, containing cheese that resembled a miniature science experiment. Reports poured in from across the country, making it clear that this wasn't a single manufacturing mistake. It was a widespread problem. Naturally, the internet turned the mishap into a meme, with the phrase, "I like my cheese moldy, bro," becoming a rallying cry for those roasting Lunchly. The backlash was understandable. This wasn't just embarrassing, it was a potential health risk parents had trusted these influencers, and the product they delivered was literally growing its own ecosystem. And what was the response from Logan and KSI? That's where the story gets even more revealing about how the launch was handled. Did the team issue a recall? Did they offer a genuine apology? Not really. Instead, Logan and KSI made light of the situation, while MrBeast stayed silent. 9 days later, after parents had been discovering mold in products bearing his name, MrBeast finally addressed the issue. But it was the most corporate non-apology imaginable. "We're investigating supply chain moisture issues." In other words, they had no real solution and were hoping the public would move on. From that point, the downfall of Lunchly accelerated. Stores quietly began pulling the product from shelves. There was no formal recall, but leaked Walmart emails revealed a voluntary quality hold. A polite way of saying, "This product is a disaster. Get it out of here." And just like that, the Lunchly experiment came to an abrupt end.